I'm here at Kahnawake territory, here with Joe Curotte. What was your birth date?
October 5th, 1947.
Okay, and were you born here in
Yeah,
Kahnawake?
in Kahnawake.
So you've been here your entire life?
Entire life, other than work.
Wow. At some point, somebody introduced you to this great game of lacrosse. Do you remember how that happened, or who gave you your first stick?
My father bought me my first stick, actually, and he wasn't a lacrosse player, but he was a lacrosse fan. And I just happened to live maybe a stone's throw from the local rink, you know, in my younger days. So I got to watch a lot of older guys play, and that's how I got the bug. So I started playing lacrosse, and my father bought me my first stick when I was I'd say about 8 years old.
Do you remember the stick maker who made your first stick?
Yes. It was Chisholm lacrosse stick in August, Chisholm Roundpoint.
Oh, there you go. All right. And you played at the outdoor box right on the Seaway there.
No, the box was originally where the Cattery School is right now. They had a box there, you know. So and I lived right nearby it, you know. So the box was there, and eventually, the box was moved up to where school is. You know, I'm telling you, but it's further up in the village, and that was eventually dismantled and brought to the to near the church, and it was rebuilt there. So played a lot of my lacrosse there next to the church box.
Right in there. And when you were given the stick, your dad got you the stick, and did you feel like this was a game for you?
Oh yeah, because I told you I was right next to the lacrosse rink, just down the road. I wanted to be like them.
Yes.
Yeah. So I learned. I threw the ball up in the air, and you know, eventually I learned how to play the game. You know, but we didn't have any organization at that time. Not till maybe I was about 12 years old.
Okay.
So more or less, I go to the rink, watch play, shoot around, break in my stick, and you know the old route. Eh? Get a glass bottle, and break it, and scrape the handle, and make it feel till it feels right, and then you play, right? And keep shooting around. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you form your pocket with a new stick? What was your process?
Like I said, there was a lot of older guys there who saw me as a kid, and they told me how to fix my stick, and of course, punched it and got a ball and that, and eventually it was all leather in those days, right?
Yes.
Everything was leather,
Yeah.
so you had to break it in. Make sure you didn't get it wet.
Yeah.
But how you gonna? It's an outdoor game. You have to get it wet, right?
When was the first team that you played on? What was that first team?
I would say when I was about 12 years old. That's when we started getting together. And Walter was still younger, but the same was Lewis. But a lot of our guys were getting together. And it was run by the church. There was a priest there named Father Brunel and Father Arsenault. They're the one that's got us organized, and we started playing Brebeuf College. I was also Cornwall. We were only about 12 years old at that time. That was really that was the first time we played organized lacrosse.
Okay, and that was what they call Pee-wee now, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
And then then you played bantam level and midget.
Then I played junior.
And junior. Okay.
And then senior. Yeah.
And you got brought up to senior very early, isn't that the case?
Yeah. I was 17, wasn't 18 because my birthday is in October, right? So I broke in with the team in 1965 at the senior team.
Wow.
They played out at Montreal Forum. That was our home rink at the time. So I got to play with my heroes.
So who were some of those heroes?
Georgie Hemlock, I remember that, Percy Goodleys, Big Al Jacobs, and Frankie Benedict. There was a Buster Mitchell from August, so it was Frankie Benedict, and a number of other guys, you know, that were my heroes of the day, you know.
And that league that team played in, that was all like Quebec?
Yeah, it was all Quebec league at that time. At the time, there was Kahnawake, there was a Montreal team, which eventually moved to, I told you, Valleyfield. There was a Ville St. Pierre team. They had a team there. They had Sorel, Drummondville. Then We had Ottawa in one year, and then Sherbrooke came in later on. Oh. But it was at the time, it was considered a pro league. So we were ineligible to play any Canadian Lacrosse Championships at the time because they considered us an outlaw league. But we had players from everywhere. We had players from BC, we had players from Peterborough, Ottawa, Cornwall, from everywhere. And we mentioned we had the great Johnny Allen playing in that league.
Oh, Bobby
Allen, playing in that league,
And the fellows were paid a little bit, well, as a semi-pro.
Yeah.
Like what kind of money? What kind of money were we talking?
I hate to admit it, but I was playing on the lacrosse, and all of a sudden our manager came to me and says, "Here's your money." I says, "Money? You mean you're paying me to play?"
I should pay you.
You're paying me to play? I said, "Yeah, I would have. If you would have asked me to play, I would have paid to play." But they paid big time money in those days was $10 a game.
Oh, okay, $10 a game.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And that was enough to make you guys an outlaw league.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of guys were being paid more. Obviously.
Oh, were they?
Some of the other
okay.
guys, and one of the coaches was John Ferguson. He coached Sorrel at the time. Played against him a lot, so I got to know him quite a bit over the years. And so, like I said, there was a lot of good guys. Cornwall had Ron Ward. I don't know if you remember Ron Ward. He was a great hockey and lacrosse player in those days, and he had eventually played for Drummondville.
Okay.
It was a great rivalry.
Where did he play in the NHL? Do you remember?
Ron Ward?
Yeah.
He never played in the NHL.
Okay.
He played in the WHA
when
he came
okay.
up.
Okay.
He played for New York at the time, yeah. But he was...
quite an athlete then.
He was, he was from Cornwall at the time, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now you had big crowds, didn't you, at the
Forum? Oh yeah, I mean the Montreal Forum was capacity crowd at that time. Was the old Forum was about over 12,000 at the time, but we'd get crowds around anywhere from 8,000 to 10,000. Lacrosse was big in Montreal in those days, 60s, 60s. Great following.
Wow.
A lot of good team.
What do you think happened to it if it was up at that level in the 60s? Like when did it start to change, and why do you think it started to change?
Well, I would say the reason why it probably changed is because now TV money and hockey was the big thing, and we couldn't afford to play in the Montreal Forum anymore. Okay. How are you going to play there? And then, of course, Expo came along and things changed, and I'd say things evolved different after that,
Huh.
But lacrosse was still a big draw.
Yeah.
In those days.
And what about the 70s? Where did you play when you left the Forum, I guess? Like
we ended up playing in Verdun Auditorium. Which
Okay.
is just down the road, maybe about 10 minutes away from the Montreal Forum. We played there.
And what did that seat, like 4,000 or 5,000?
It had about that 5,000 or 6,000 people.
5,000 or 6,000.
So we drew our old crowds used to come down to Verdun.
So that must have been quite the atmosphere with a packed house.
Yeah, Verdun was quite a place. Yes.
And was there like a day of the week when your league was featured?
Saturday was lacrosse night.
Is that right?
Yeah, lacrosse in Kahnawake.
Everybody was looking forward to that.
Everybody would come to the lacrosse game Saturday. Saturday was the big.
That must have been something, huh?
Oh yeah.
Packed house.
Packed house. Oh yes.
And what are some memories you have playing in Verdun? We'll say, at that.
Well, this was one game. We were playing. I think we were playing Sorrel, and they were a rough crowd. And there was a big fight that broke out. Big fight. Anyways, the referees, once they sorted it all out, okay, he says, okay, we're, everybody was thrown out of it, just out of it. So for order us to finish the game, they only allowed us to have, besides the goalie, 6 runners to finish off the third period.
Really?
Yeah. So
everybody else was thrown?
Yeah, so I got to be one of the 6 players. So I was...
you were lucky.
Yeah, so okay. But we managed to play that final period, and I got to play. As a defender, I even scored a goal, so that's okay.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were very defensive oriented.
Yeah, defensive oriented.
I heard you were a really hard checker.
Yeah, well, that's.
That's
You
not
have
for
to
you to
ask the
say.
guys. You'll have to ask the guys I checked against.
Well,
ask Joe Cambria.
None of them can hold. None of them can hold the stick anymore.
Yeah, well, you can ask Joe Cambria if I was or not. He was just here.
So did you know you wanted to be defensive minded from the beginning, or how did that all happen?
I always wanted to be because my big hero was Big Al Jacobs, big number 2, and he was the roughest, toughest guy ever. He was built like a. His nickname was Big Al Buffalo. He was so huge, big guy, yeah, and he was my hero. And of course, when I broke in '65, who was my partner? Big Al.
Really?
Yeah, Big Al Jacobs.
You must have been in heaven.
I was in heaven.
Yeah.
He would say to me, Joe, he said, he didn't call me Joe, he called me son. He says, all I want, because I was a good checker, and I really.
How much older was he than you? First of all.
He must. At the time, he was probably. I'd say I was only 17. I would say he was in his 30s already.
Get out of here!
Yeah,
so this is 30s. A man.
Yeah,
you're playing with. Yeah.
He says to me, he says, Joe, he says, just chase them my way. He says, I'll take care of the rest.
That was your job.
Yeah,
to corral them and send them in to be killed.
I remember this one game. We're playing in Drummondville. There was this one guy who was just aggressive, coming down all the time, So of course he couldn't get by me. So I says, fine, Big Al says, chase him over my way. I'll take it. So I did. He went down this way, and I'm checking. I was out of here. Whoa! And I look, the guy's laying on the floor. He says, and here's Big Al walking to the penalty box. He says, "You ain't coming back." Sure enough, we didn't have to worry about him anymore. Well, Big Al was.
He sounds like a character.
Oh, right? He was. He was a good character. He was. He was one of those guys you'd love to have in your room. You would never want to play against him, but you would want him in your room with you. He was one of those guys.
Did he hang around for the 74, 75 Pro League?
No, he was too old for that. He was just because when we played the President's Cup in 1969, he'd been in his last year.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Did he play in that short-lived Pro League in =68? Like that had Detroit and that?
No. No,
he didn't play in that.
No. He was like I said, 2'8". He tried out, but I mean.
He was at the end of his career at that point. Yeah. Huh. Did you play in that league or
I was on the team, but I got injured in the final exhibition game against Toronto, and they cut me.
And who was the coach going to be for you?
John Ferguson.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Ferguson was going to be your coach.
And Jim Bishop was involved with the organization at the time too.
Oh, so Jim Bishop was involved.
So I knew Jim Bishop quite well at the time, and he knew me.
Yeah. Now, I remember you telling me a story about when you moved on to coaching, you had to go to a clinic with Jim Bishop and
Morley Kells.
And you said that was like life-changing, that clinic, right?
Yeah. I mean, when I started coaching in 1978, because I was still playing, but we didn't have all these players. They needed a team, so I formed a team and I got to play in a league with Montreal, Ottawa area team, Cornwall, and Augustana. We played, and we were 500. You'd always like to think you're a good. You can translate from being a player to a coach. Doesn't work that way.
It takes a while. It's a different game altogether.
Doesn't always work that way. As much as you think you could, nah. But like I said, I had at the end of that year, I ended up in a coach's clinic with Jim Bishop and Morley Kells. Wow, the greatest coaching clinic I ever had in my life. And I said. And I knew them both, I knew about their career, and like I said, I played against Jim Bishop's teams over the years, but I didn't know how, and they told me how coaching should be, and I said, I want to be like them, and I was, and I did. The following year, in '79, I turned my team around. I lost one game all year.
Wow.
And
Just right from that clinic, and
Yeah,
you used,
everything.
you used all the
I,
stuff they told you.
I applied all the things that he showed me. I still have my book at home, and I have all the notes and everything, all the things that he put out that day, you know. And I felt bad when he passed away, you know, in a car accident. You know, he was one of my heroes, you know, in life, you know.
Really. Before leaving your playing career completely, what were some of your biggest moments playing the game, you know, when you were a player?
Well, I'd say in 1969 we had played the President's Cup here in Chateauguay, and in those days it was the East against the West. You know, Eastern representative and the West. So we represented the East in that day. You know, we played and we ended up winning the Eastern Division. And in the West we played was against Nanaimo Luckies. So we played, and we played a 7-game, best out of 7 in those days. You know?
Right.
And we played 7 games.
Wow.
7 games, 7 nights.
Very
We
exciting.
lost the first 3, we won the second 3, and we lost the final by 2 goals.
A tough game. Yeah.
But I'm not I wasn't what you call an offensive-minded player or like that. I was more defender, but I scored 5 goals in that series.
Wow.
One of them was a shorthanded goal, and I had like 7 assists. So I had 12 points in that year. That was like, it was, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that was a great series, you know, for me, you know,
Yeah.
at that time. I mean, I played in '76 too. We went to the President's Cup in Winnipeg. Didn't win it there.
What team were you playing for that went to Winnipeg?
Kahnawake. We played
Kahnawake, okay.
yeah, and we had good players, but you know, that's when things changed. Now you're playing round robin, and so it was a different thing. And you know, we didn't, but we got close. Let's put it that way. And then in '77, August Austin picked me up, and I went to the President's Cup in Edmonton that year for them.
Okay.
For them, yeah.
All right. So you got to travel. You got
Oh, yeah.
and you got to play in some big games.
Oh yeah.
And,
I've been to British Columbia. I played in. We used to have North American Indian Lacrosse Championship.
Yeah.
We used to play that every year, and in 1969 we played that in North Van. We played that, so we won that tournament there, and. Following years, you know, we played it in here in Kahnawake. We played out of Verdun, like I said. You know, there was teams from North Van, Nanaimo, usually Six Nations, usually an August Austin team, and our team. We played a North American Lacrosse Championship for North Van. Jim Thorpe, not Longboat Trophy, we used to call it. You know,
Okay.
It's just native group.
Yeah.
But it was great. So I got to travel across the country playing those games.
So in 1980 they had the first World Indoor or World Box Championship, and they did have a team. Did you get to try out for that team at all, or?
No, I was involved in that. I was involved with. And by 1980, I had. That was my last year. I'd play lacrosse, and I shouldn't say 79. The last year I played lacrosse, and 1980 I started coaching the senior team. So.
Oh boy! So you really got into the coaching at that stage. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you feel about coaching compared to playing? Like in
Well,
terms of
I mean,
passion.
as a player, any player can relate to this. You know, you have this adrenaline rush and you're playing the game. You can't wait to play and just enjoy the game. You know, I just feel good about it. Well, when I started coaching, I wasn't sure, but then I started, and I had the same feeling. You know,
Did
same
you?
adrenaline rush,
Yeah.
and I knew how to. I really enjoyed coaching. You know,
Very good.
Yeah, I couldn't wait. You know, and I told my players before I started the season, I says, "You're not just coming to play lacrosse and go to a lacrosse game." I says, "The most important part as me as a coach is me coaching, okay? And you're going to come to practices. You're going to be on time. You're going to be there, and you're going to learn. And the game is going to, whatever I teach you, you're going to play it in the game." And that's how they did it. And that's that's how it became.
They had success doing it.
Yeah, I had success.
So between playing and coaching, who were some of the great players you either played with or coached? Who were some that you can think of?
As a coach, I had my team. I had Barry Alford, who was in the Hall of Fame. Okay.
Yeah.
I had Brian Jacobs, the goalie.
Okay.
He was, thought he was a senior. There's a lot of other players that were played there that were very good, you know, and I think I've helped their career, you know. But as a player, I can name. I don't have enough fingers or toes to count how many players the great players I played against, you know, and played with. So, like I said, I played against Gaylord Powless. Played with him too in a couple of games, you know, in the exhibition games, and we played. I played against one of the greats is Oliver Hill, you know. He played against Bruce Roundpoint. Okay, him and I were. He happened to always come down my side of the floor.
Oh God, I can imagine that.
So him and I were.
Really?
Yeah. For years and years and years.
Oh my God, that would be something to see.
Mike Benedict, you know, I was Austin, you know, Mike Benedict. He was every time he'd see me, he'd avoid me. But he was such a great player, you know. I mean, he could shoot left, right, over his head. The guy was amazing player. Yeah.
You had a number of different professions, right? Outside of lacrosse, tell people a little bit about the different things you worked on. Right.
Well, just like anybody else, you know, here in Kahnawake, you know, I did a little iron work in the 70s, in the early 70s. So, you know, but in 1970, I was working in New York City, you know, working there, doing iron work. But also, I got a call from the owner from Rochester, the new league they just started. So I went there and I played a few games for Rochester. So I'd come home on the weekend, jump on a car, drive to Rochester or whatever, and play lacrosse.
Was that 74?
It's 1970.
Oh, 70.
1970. So I was playing lacrosse and doing iron work at the same time. It killed me.
Yeah, you never sleep.
Yeah, I couldn't. So I'd play a Saturday night game and a Sunday afternoon game and drive back to Kahnawake, jump on my ride and head back to New York midnight.
Oh my Lord! Yeah.
So, but
you guys loved it. Yeah,
loved the lacrosse. You know, I mean, that's the only reason why I didn't do it for money. They paid me, but it wasn't. That wasn't important.
Wow. And what did you do after ironwork?
Well, I was doing ironwork, and then I got a couple of different jobs here and there. You know, I started, got into the printing business. So up in Montreal, I was with a native organization. So they hired me, and I started learning how to be a printer. You know, and not just printer, but putting things together. And then eventually that revolved into. I went to Ryerson in Toronto, and I into graphic arts management. So I graduated there in '78. Okay, of course Ryerson isn't Ryerson anymore.
Right.
But I graduated there. But I take pride in that because when I first started off in that program, there was 140 of us in that program. And I remember the dean of the services, he said to us, he says, you know, when we got our opening, he says, look to the left and right of you. He says, half of you ain't going to be here in Christmas, after Christmas.
That's encouraging.
Yeah. Anyways, out of 140 guys, I was one of 17 to have graduated in that program.
Wow.
Ryerson. So I take much pride in that.
So you kind of learned management?
Management, it was mostly management and graphic arts, you know, and printing business. I did that for, once I got out and graduated, and like I said, in '78, I graduated, I came home, I was married still, I was married, and I started a lacrosse team. So I was working I was coaching and managing a team, and and I was still playing. So
Busy.
yeah, but lacrosse is lacrosse. You love it.
Yeah. And then you were involved in a very important thing here at Kahnawake, the survival school.
Yeah, well, survival school.
And you somehow got into management of
Yeah,
a project
well,
like that.
Yeah, like I said, in 1978, it just so happened that was the beginning of the Caughnawaga Survival School. Okay.
And for people who don't know what that is, what is the Kahnawake Survival School?
Caughnawaga Survival is a local high school, and the reason why the name Survival is the survival of the language and also of our heritage and all of that. So that's why they call it Survival School. There wasn't a survival school as such, but that's the reason why they call it Kahnawake Survival.
Save the tradition, save the language, save the, yeah.
That's right. That still exists today. Anyways, in '78 it started but I was still working in the graphic arts business, and like I said, involved in lacrosse. And they needed someone who, in '79, they were looking for someone to be involved in the construction of a new school, because now money was available to build a school. So I had applied, not for that job, I just volunteered. So they looked over my biography, and they said, they'd like me to apply for that job. So I did. So I ended up being the director of construction for that. So I worked for 5 years. So we built a survival school. Wow. And that was my beginning of my construction career. I never stepped out after that. So I've been in construction until about 6-7 years ago.
Yeah. And then I know like Louis DeLille was the principal at one point and teaches Mohawk
My
there.
brother, my younger brother, he was the principal at there one time. So I happened to coach too in his junior years.
And now they have a nice lacrosse program out of that school, and you know, with kids going on scholarship to places, and pretty impressive. Yeah.
Yes, I'm impressed with a lot of the lacrosse programs going right now in Kahnawake. You know.
Yeah. It seems to me that right now is a good time for lacrosse in Kahnawake, whereas maybe 5-8 years ago, it wasn't as bright a future for it.
And that all comes down to having the right people. Okay, it involves people, and if you don't have that, you don't have these organizations. You know, so like I said. In the '70s, late '70s, Louis Lill was involved in lacrosse, and there wasn't a whole lot of people involved. So I got involved in, and that's how I ended up becoming a junior. And then lacrosse expanded even more after that, because lacrosse at that point was somewhat a little low because there wasn't enough people involved in the organization. Yeah. So it's people that who are willing to put out time and do it, and that's the most important. Yes.
Yeah. You got to have the people, and you got to have people who want things to work well.
Yes.
Yeah. So they put the time into it. Out of your entire lacrosse career, what can you say about that?
Yeah. Well, lacrosse was always a big part of my life, and thank God my wife let me play. She let me be what I wanted to be, and I enjoyed every game. I couldn't wait to play. I couldn't wait for the season to begin, I practice. I was there. Game. There wasn't any place that if somebody said to you, Joe, you want to go play in Onondaga tomorrow? I'm there.
So you didn't have to think about it.
I didn't have to think about it twice. I mean, I'm not the only one. There was a lot of guys like that, but I mean, I was that type of person who lacrosse was very important to me, and I loved it so much, And culturally, also, as being a traditionalist, it's a very important part of our life,
Yes.
The lacrosse game, and
medicine game.
Yeah, medicine game. We play it. We play that for the creator, and that's a game.
Yes, and that's the root of it all is the medicine game, playing for the entertainment of the creator.
Yeah.
And you were fortunate enough to be able to coach your sons.
Yeah.
You know, so you and
And
now
my
you have grandchildren coming, right?
Yeah, I have one grandson. He's just turned 6, and he's starting to play lacrosse, and he loves it. He's enjoying it. So for me, that's like being born again.
So you're being drawn in again.
Oh yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
It never lets you go.
Yeah, that's right.
And you don't want it to.
No, that's right.
You don't want it to.
Yeah.
Well, what would you like to close with in talking about either Kahnawake or lacrosse or the whole experience?
Well,
you know.
Well, I got inducted into Ontario Lacrosse Hall of Fame in
96 or something.
Yeah, and that was quite an honor to be involved in that, and so I mean, not that I played lacrosse to be in the Hall of Fame, but it was an honor to be in there. And I look at all the names in St. Catharines, and you look at the list of guys on there, and you say, hey, I played with all those guys. I played against all those guys, you know? So I'm in good company.
Yeah. And just think, the way you started out as a senior was in the Montreal Forum.
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
Not many people can say
wooden
that.
Floor. Wooden floor.
Wooden floor.
Yes, they had a wooden floor.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, you know, that's a treat just to play on wood. You know, like out in Salmon Bellies out west, and you know.
And I told you we had played a series of field lacrosse games at Expo 1967 over here in Montreal, and it was an all-star game between guys from the Canadian side and team natives from the American side. So I got to play with a lot of guys from Awasosne and Six Nations, you know, Gaylord Powless, and our coach was Ross Powless. He was their coach, you know. Yeah. And so when I got on the team, ready to go, and Ross Powless came to me. He says, Joe, and he remembers me. He remembered me, Joe. He says, Joe. I says, it surprised me. I says, Joe, he says, I got one job for you. He says, what? He says, their best player on that team, his name is
Oliver Hill.
Oliver Hill. I says, and your job is to watch him. I says, and you watch him wherever he goes. You're going to be playing this. If he decides to go to the bathroom and take a shit, he says, you go take it with him. But the thing was that
now they call that shadowing.
Yeah. Anyways, Ross Powless, and he remembered me. So I was honored that he would remember me. But I think there is because I played against his son several years, and he was so he saw, because my job was always to watch
Gaylord,
you know. So I guess he liked the job I did. so that was an honor to be pointed out and say, I want you to do this.
Very nice. Very nice.
And, you know,
what do you think of, you know, the opportunities for the game
there is some good quality lacrosse played not only in Canada and the US, but also in Europe, you know, England and Australia, you know, and it's surprising how big it is in those areas.
Yeah, you know, there's 72 countries playing now.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Unbelievable, you know.
Yeah.
It's great to have you here, and now your story, hopefully people will be reading these like 50 years from now, you know.
Just in closing too, you know, like when my speech to at the Ontario Lacrosse Hall of Fame, I spoke about the past, the present, and the now, you know. And one of the things I ended off with was I got into the Hall of Fame not because I was always the best player or anything like that. It's because I had the privilege and honor to play with some great players. And you don't become, you don't come in this Hall of Fame simply because you're of anything. It's because there's some great people who play this game, and there's a great future in it. And And one of the things was in closing, I said, I thanked all the people that, because I am a traditionalist, I says, one of the things that's important that when we play the game is that we honor the creator, okay? And I said, that night, I says, tonight, you've given me the honor to have honored the creator for this, and you've also helped me by being part of it. So that's how I closed it. So thank you.
Yahweh.